Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about overcoming adversities. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is a thinker. So, luckily for me, I have a special guest here, Ethan, who's going to help me think about this in another manner. And all of us who are listening, let's truly think about this. So, Ethan, thank you so much for coming on my show. I have to just ask you, let's just dive right into it. When you think of overcoming adversities, what does that make you think about?
It has me think about a challenge in life where you get to choose to be the victim or the victor. You could learn a lesson or you could be the lesson. I've seen people overcome adversities and I've seen people allow adversities to get the best of them. What
Yeah.
people don't realize is that most adversities that we experience in life have already been conquered. You have to be
Mm.
willing to do the work.
Yeah, you got to be willing to do the work. And why is it so hard for people, in your opinion, are not willing to do that work?
They're not willing to step outside their comfort zone. You can look at a business owner. You can look at a landlord. You can also look at some people who are putting themselves out there. They're willing to do what it takes to get on the other side because they see beauty through the adversity. They see beauty on the other side of the tracks. Unfortunately, some people decide to be stagnant and not grow. And as a result, they become complacent.
Yeah, that's a valid point. I think it's kind of like a safeguard. They feel safe in this comfort of knowing the routine, knowing what to expect, even though in their hearts they know they are meant for more, and they know that they want more, but for some reason that comfort keeps them locked in. I've noticed, and it's kind of sad to see, because when you finally break out of your adversity, out of what keeps you trapped, it's kind of refreshing. You know what I mean? You kind of like, you feel free. So my question is, what are some adversities that you feel like you had to overcome?
Growing up in a single parent household of five, like for
Mhm.
example, my mom had my brother maybe a year after high school or right after high school, and she didn't have a chance to further her education. And then several years later, she has me. But somewhere along the way, there's this guy who enters her life who becomes my first stepfather. And they were cohabitating for about 8 years, playing house, had two more kids who became my two younger brothers. But
Mhm.
when they broke up, she's a single parent of four now.
Mhm.
So therefore, her dating value has gone down significantly. And that's not going to be attracted to a man who's thinking, you want me to take care of a family and not go through the dating process. That's why a woman who's single, who doesn't have kids, becomes the top priority. And then my
That's
mom
true.
meets another man, cohabitates with him for several years and has another child. And it just became turbulence because he had a drug and alcohol problem where he would relapse, disappear off the face of the earth. And the example I can give you is like a puppy you see on the street. You feel like you can nurse it back up to health.
Yeah.
That's how addicts are when you nurse them back up to health. Because when you allow someone to come back into your life without consequences and boundaries and ultimatums, they feel like they can get away with stuff. And not only does that affect my mom, but it also affects me and my siblings. Well, we have to face a choice of, do we want to give in to this stuff or go against the grain?
Yeah. That's
That's
a
one
real reality.
example. Then the other example is having a strange relationship with my father. He was already with another woman before he met my mom and already had a child.
Mm.
And he decided to, date multiple women at the same time or be with women, even though he only had one serious girlfriend. And my mom and this other woman who he's, more serious with, they got pregnant at the same time. And for the first 4 years of my life, I didn't know I had an older brother. And
Oh,
then when I became between 6 and 8, I found out I have a sister, and we're only 2 months apart. And for me, I had to stick with the reality of, hey, these are siblings that live somewhere in a different household. I don't get to see that often, and it makes the dynamic so strong, not so strong to the point where it can make or break the future. I've ended up becoming closer to my older brother who lived in a different household as opposed to my sister.
Well, that's interesting. And it's funny that you say that because I have a similar story as well. My dad, he had my two sisters, two different, well, it's me and my two sisters, same mom, and then I have another sister, another brother, and another sister from other moms as well, but same dad. And I'm not close to any of those three. I'm only close to the ones in my household that I grew up with. Whenever I see them or say hello, I'm cordial, I'm nice, but the relationship isn't there for me. You know what I mean? There's that disconnect, and it's just because they weren't around. You know what I mean? They just weren't around, and my parents, they got a divorce really when I was really young, so it's interesting when people who see bad relationships, bad habits, bad outcomes, bad results, yet these people don't see the pattern that they're making, and they don't see the habits that they're doing and how it affects the people that they're around. So as a child, I'm glad that you said that you had to determine which one you were going to go to, either accept it as your truth and as your way of life and repeat the cycle, or choose to go against it and make something of yourself for who you are as an individual. And I don't think a lot of people think of that in that manner of knowing that they have a choice, but it all starts with themselves. So I guess that leads to my next question. Why did you write your book? Why did you share your story of your adversity? I mean, you could have kept it
Well,
to yourself, so why make that extra step?
well, it's a multiple answers here. First, I always wanted to write a book, like poetry, like spoken word.
Uh-huh.
But what happened was later down the road, I had a near death experience where I had a 99% chance of death versus 1% chance of life. That
Wow.
99% chance of death is higher than the divorce rate, someone dropping out of college, a failed business in 5 years. I can go on, but that 1%, for some reason, overrided the 99.
Mhm.
When you look at the mathematicals, and I try, it's a couple of times I had to tell kids this when I used to work in the classrooms, you can still be part of that 1% and still beat the 99 because all it takes is one time. That's one part of the answer. The second part is I didn't ask for all this attention and everything else. It's just when I start working with student athletes, I'm not sure if you're a parent or not, or auntie, you will want to know who is working with your nieces, nephews, or child. And people, have access to the internet. They can do a background check. And what happened was people used to type in my name and come up to me and say, "Is this you from the car accident?"
Um,
And I'm like, "Yeah, that is me." I didn't feel comfortable. For me, during that journey of recovering and back to my life, I saw the plan of I'm gonna go to college, community college. I'm gonna work this after school program job and go about my life. But life has a way of pushing me outside my comfort zone. And as a result, I got encouraged to just see it as an inspiration. That's the second part. The third part is when I was in my senior year of college at Mills University, this Greek family invited me over to their home during the midst of COVID. We're eating, and one person said I should write a book about my story. Then another person just kept saying they all agreed. I honestly didn't want to do it because I just wasn't ready to put the V in being vulnerable. But it's hard to say no to people when they're feeding you some crab legs, some champagne, scallops, and other delicious food. I remember this quote, the key to a man's heart is to his stomach. And well, it got to my stomach and it was hard to say no after that. So I got started, and there was this publishing companies contacting me. They said, if you sign with us, and this is right after they sent me the contract to an email, they'll turn my story into a movie with a music soundtrack. And I had to turn it down because they're talking about a multi-billion-dollar idea. And it is now coming in for business. I They were nowhere to be found when I was going through my recovery, rehab, going through college. But at least you could do is offer me a distribution deal. That way it's more my favorite, allow me to have creative control. So I ended up self-publishing my book like this one. It's called The Inspirational Story of Ethan A. Poetic, Chronicles of Adversities, Education, Sports, Relationships, and Resiliency. I have 8 forewords, 2 back cover reviews. I created it as a hardcover, soft cover. I sign, autograph. Then there's an ebook. Then there's the audio version for like people who are blind or illiterate.
Yeah.
And so far, it's been very successful. And
But
it's been helpful for a lot of people in a lot of areas of life, like juvenile facilities, leadership roles in school districts and colleges, inspiring kids to overcome their own adversities, inspiring parents to, fix their foundation.
yeah, I mean, it all starts with you looking within and realizing, you have to step out and you have to pursue forward because you're not living this life for yourself. You're living this life amongst so many other people who may use your story as a reference point, you know what I mean? Who use your story as a guide or a map or just an illustration of their own life, recognizing that I'm not alone. And this world feels so alone. This world feels so much in pain and they're scared. And I mean, you can see that the craziness is coming out because the craziness is all around us. You know what I'm saying? So it keeps us in this one box. So it's like when you're able to read a book and you're able to relate or you're able to visualize what somebody has gone through poetry or through music, through so many forms of arts, because this is your art now. You know what I mean? You've written your life in a way that relates to people, that resonates with people. And that's a gift, you know what I mean? And I'm glad that you stepped into that. It is scary to get the attention. It is scary and uncomfortable, to have this new stage in your life. But at the same time, you have to embrace it, and just walk with it in a good pace with grace because it's for you, especially if countless people told you before you even started writing, you need to write, you need to write, you need to write. That's like a flashlight from God saying, listen to me. Do this. You know what I'm saying? And now that you're doing it, I'm so glad that you are because more people need to step into that vulnerability, the via vulnerability, how you said earlier. And I would like to start wrapping up the show with some lasting words of wisdom that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking.
Um, One quote I learned is don't invest more than you can afford to lose.
Mhm.
Like, for example, when I became a self-published author, I invested my own money. I didn't ask for no loan from a bank or grant or anything. When I mean self-published it, I paid for the editor, the copyrights, the barcodes, the
Everything.
Adobe. Well, I paid the person who did the Adobe Illustrator, the audio files of it, and there's that quote. And there's also be willing to try something new. Like, for example, I'm more than just a person who wrote books. I'm also a person who used to be a student athlete. I'm still involved with sports in a different way where I'm in the crowd, but encouraging students with posters. I'm also involved with networking to continue to expand my business. I'm also a partner in another business called Land and Sea, where we sell sea moss, black shilajit, soursop bitters, and a variety of other things to help people with their underlying health conditions, whether it's high blood pressure, diabetes, or anything else. Also, you can't always believe everything you see on TV and in social media because you have to fact check it.
Real, you really do.
Uh,
You really do have to fact check nowadays because there's so many people who like to just take snips and pieces of things and just put it out there and just make it loud and obnoxious. And to make people believe in it. But it's like, no, do your research. You find all the details to explain exactly what's going on because unfortunately that's how people get likes, people get attention. But I also like the fact that you also brought up how you're not just an author, you are more than that. And I think that's something great to remember, to remind people of is that you may be recognized by one hat, by one thing that you do, but that does not mean that is all of you. That is just a part of you in this stage of your life, but that doesn't that's not it. There's so much more that you can give to the world. There's so many other things that you can tap into and put your foot into and just explore. And that is the beauty of just thinking about life and your possibilities. So I really do thank you for coming on my show, Ethan. And I think anybody who's listening and would like to know more about Ethan and what he has to offer, I have his photo on my website. You can click right under there and get access to everything he has to offer the world. And why not just keep thinking about it, right? So, with that being said, bye.